You don't have a way out of this, do you?
Oh, I wasn't thinking that far ahead!
Much like The Lord of the Rings, Star Wars is looking like a franchise that will never die, despite the fact that the films have long gone, and it's looking unlikely we'll ever see an episode 7. So what we're getting a lot of is a whole load of episode 3.5s, in the form of either TV shows or video games. The Force Unleashed 2 carries on the story of Darth Vader's secret apprentice, Starkiller. What got me is how they could. Spoiler alert for the first game in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He dies. In the beginning of Force Unleashed 2, we see that Vader has cloned Starkiller. The major plot point of the sequel is that Starkiller has to find and save his love interest Juno from the first game, as well as finding out whether he really is a clone or not. The latter, however, is never really explained. You end the game without knowing whether Starkiller is a clone or the original, and seeing how that's the only interesting part of the story, it left me feeling rather disappointed with the ending. Because the main campaign is so short at 5 hours, which is pretty much half the length of the original, there's no room here for any kind of intriguing plot. Characters like Kota can come across as pretty damn unlikable, and other characters are just immensely uninteresting. That's not to mention that the Star Wars universe feels incredibly small in this game. You only visit 3 planets, and the only characters actually relevant to the plot are Starkiller and Vader. Characters like Proxy and Juno are just sorta there, and the cameo appearances by Boba Fett and Yoda are incredibly disappointing. You never actually fight Boba Fett, and Yoda only makes a brief appearance in the Dagobah level, which, by the way, you wonder why Starkiller even goes there. And Yoda looks like green paper mache, but I'll get to why this is in a bit. Story has definitely taken a major backseat here, but what about the actual gameplay? Well, it does fare better as the controls are fantastic. Gone is the tiresome waggle control scheme, and now shaking the Wiimote executes powerful attacks, whilst the A button executes normal ones. Starkiller has a ton of moves available, including lightsaber throws, mind tricks, and a room clearing force repulse, to name a few. How they implemented these powers wouldn't have taken a genius game designer to devise, but it's refreshing to see how a free-roaming third-person game uses the Wii's capabilities to its fullest. Throughout the game you can point your Wiimote at the screen to aim certain force powers. Being able to direct your Force Lightning and Force Push in a desired direction gives the Wii version of Force Unleashed 2 a clear advantage over its HD iterations, and I go as far as saying the Wii version is more fun to play because of this. That said, the camera is a pain. It simply moves too slow to keep up with what you're doing, and having to constantly center it hurts the overall gaming experience. Some sort of automatic camera or lock-on system could have made it a bit more tolerable. When first playing this game, I was really loving the gameplay as a whole. Because the controls work so well, it made the combat a blast. Then I realised that the game itself is very repetitive. There are very few enemy types, and you pretty much use the same strategy to beat each one. As a result, if you play this game for about 2 hours, you're gonna get bored. This is what happened to me. By the second level, I was getting fed up with playing, so I switched my Wii off and did something else. The next morning I went to go give it another go, and I was having a lot of fun again, but 2 hours in I was getting bored again. I can now see that this is a game that was meant to be played in short bursts, and as long as you do the same, then there's some fun to be had here. Exclusive to the Wii version of the game is the multiplayer mode, which is basically a rip-off of Super Smash Bros. There's 10 characters to choose from, and you do get out in several arenas in up to 4-player matches. Whilst this can be fun for a while, it won't last long. Why? Well, why would I play a stripped-down version of Super Smash Bros. Brawl when I can play Super Smash Bros. Brawl? Next time, LucasArts, try to be a little more original in your multiplayer modes. Now, I've played the demo for the Force Unleashed 2 for the PS3, and I think that game just looks gorgeous. The Wii version obviously doesn't look nearly as good, but the graphics still come across as pretty average for the system. Because the game is set on worlds like Dagobah and Kamino, the environments do look pretty boring most of the time. Luckily your force powers look pretty cool, and cutting off enemy limbs does feel quite satisfying, despite the lack of blood. Cutscenes look different on the Wii, and they've taken a knockback too. At times the CGI used here can look reminiscent of those old FMVs you used to see on the PlayStation, and in 2010, that's not a good thing. Just watch how odd some character facial animations can look.
Abandoned ship! Abandoned ship!
I can't!
And that's not to mention that Star Killer rips off 1980s American sitcoms.
What are you talking about?
What you talking about, Willis?
The Force Unleashed 2 is a mixed bag when you compare it to Force Unleashed 1. You will care about the narrative in this one, and it's not nearly as long, but the controls are more refined, and that's about all this game does better than the original. If you're mad about Star Wars, then you're probably going to be disappointed. It still makes a fun rental though, but nothing more. And now I'll leave you with this shot of Darth Vader. A little too close to the crotch much? Oh.
You have the ring, and I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Now let's see how well you handle it.